I will be continuing the reading of my full-length novel / screenplay Backwoods in this video. This will be video number 9 of Backwoods Monsters. This will be the 5th video in the Act 4 series, and today we are going to cover scenes 46 through 50, which make for pages 89 through 99. And well, let's begin with scene 46, which is going to be an exterior setting / location. This scene and every scene in this video, unless indicated otherwise, and I don't think there are any, we're going to be sticking to the main setting / location marked with the bold letter F from our second introductory synopsis video, the second video we did pertaining to the Backwoods series. And that's going to pertain to the nature trail and just the description of the woods and the mountainsides exterior. So all leading to the lake with the forested valley, all included in there. So we will be using that F scenery. Alright, we are exterior, daytime, mid-afternoon, continued from the last scene and the last video where we were just entering the woods and getting onto that main nature trail to take this journey to the grassy valley with the crystal clear blue water lake in the center of it. Alright, our same group, dogs included, are now walking on the main nature trail of the forested mountain, starting out on their way toward the open, grassy valley with the lake in the center. The trail slopes upward along the mountainside for a bit of a ways before it starts sloping back down toward the valley and the lake. Looking out from the trail, one notices that the woods aren't the thickest or the densest. There is an obvious difference between the trail's beaten path and the wood's leaf and foliage-ridden canvas, but one could walk through these woods fairly easily without encountering too many obstacles in the way. Snakes, spiders, or possibly even something bigger would be the number one concern. At this lower level of the mountain, only seldom would one encounter any type of steep drop-off. There are patches of landscape where the forest becomes too thick to pass through, sure, but they are few and far between. We now begin our dialogue with Martin, addressing Byron Wade. You say the lake is about an hour's hike from here. Byron responded to Martin's question. Just about. We'll get to the valley before we get to the lake, but you'll be able to see the lake once we get there. There's also a berry patch that should be coming up soon. Spaz, shouting aloud to the group. Berries, yeah. Paulette, addressing Byron, and sounding somewhat concerned. Berry patch? Byron. Yup. They're these little blackberries that grow on these thorny vine-like bushes. Boz, looking at Paulette and smiling. The blackberries turn our tongues purple. Paulette, smiling and addressing Boz with her first sentence, then addressing Byron with a question, likely just to make sure the berries are truly safe to eat. Oh, okay. Do you eat these berries often? Byron. Only every time we're out this way. But the berries are only ripe in the summer months. They start turning to mush and going bad come fall. And there aren't any more come winter. Paulette. Oh, I see. What grows out here during the winter months? Byron. Citrus starts coming into season in the fall. There are a few other things, but winters are what we prepare for. We can goods and stock up to survive the cold months. And we go into town and buy from the stores when necessary. Paulette, winters don't sound easy. Byron, they have their ups and downs. There's a heck of a lot less work to do during the winter months, that's for sure. But there's also a lot less food. Martin, now chiming in and asking of Byron, I suppose there's not a whole lot one can do when nothing wants to grow, huh? Byron, responding to Martin in an upbeat tone, exactly. Paulette, that makes sense. Byron, suddenly sounding a bit excited and quite upbeat. Well, would you look at that? We pause for character actions. Martin and Paulette look around, somewhat surprised. Byron, again, pointing a finger forward and downward, he says, There they are, the blackberries. Spaz, running to the blackberry brambles to pick and eat the blackberries while shouting aloud, Berries, berries, yeah, all right. Byron, come on, everybody. Pause for character actions. Spaz practically charges the brambles. After announcing to the group to join in, Byron quickly follows suit. Byron and Spaz are now both gluttonously indulging themselves in the sweet fruit. Boz now comes up alongside Martin and Paulette, right in between them, taking one of each of their hands and one of his own and leading them to the berries. Boz and the Lasbies join in the feeding frenzy. The dogs watch as the people indulge themselves, having sniffed at the brambles and decided this is not a meal for them. The people find the blackberries to be surprisingly sweet and absolutely delicious. It's one of those little wonders and delights of nature that the Lasbies absolutely just love to live for. The trek to the valley with the lake seems to be off to a very good start. We now move back to character dialogue with Paulette addressing Martin with delight. You know what, Martin? This is turning out to be a very pleasant adventure. Martin, spoken through a mouthful of berries. It sure is. We now move to scene 47, exterior, daytime, mid-afternoon, in conjunction with the last scene, but after a brief time lapse. About 45 minutes have passed since the end of the last scene, and the group is now just over an hour into their trek on the main nature trail, which runs along the forested mountainside. Martin is getting a little impatient as the group encroaches on a patch of peach trees, despite Byron's insistence that they are nearly there. Byron, addressing the Lasbies in an upbeat tone of voice. All right, are you folks getting hungry again? Spaz calling out to the group. Yeah, peaches! Byron, addressing Spaz in an even but mildly annoyed tone of voice. Hush, boy, I wasn't talking to you. We pause for character actions. Martin and Paulette notice the patch of peach trees up ahead of their position on the trail. Martin, addressing Byron in an impatient tone of voice. We've been walking for over an hour. Are we perchance getting close to this valley with the lake in the center of it, or what? Byron, responding in a reassuring tone of voice. We're almost there, and it's all downhill from here, too. Let's stop and eat a peach, and then we'll get back to our travels. We'll be to the open valley in 15 to 20 minutes if we hurry up and eat. Martin, giving in. Okay. Paulette, addressing Martin and sounding persuasive. Come on, Martin. A peach sounds good, and I'm sure the kids want to eat again. We now pause for character actions. Paulette looks down at Boz, and Boz looks up at Paulette, smiling and nodding his approval. The group heads on over to the peach tree patch, and everybody picks a peach. Paulette bites into hers. Paulette again. These are good. Try yours, Martin. Martin, after biting into his peach. That is good. Byron. So, this trip has been worth it, huh? Paulette, somewhat hastily responding to Byron's question. For the fruit alone, it sure has. Byron, addressing both Martin and Paulette and trying to pique their curiosity and sense of adventure by saying, well, we'll be at the lake soon, and then I'll show you folks something really special. Standing at the lake and looking out, one can see every mountain surrounding the valley. It's quite a sight. Paulette. Wow, I can't wait to get there. Martin. Same here. Byron. Well, grab another peach for the walk and let's get going. We'll be there soon, you'll see. Martin. We're looking forward to it. Paulette. Yes, very much so. Byron. Grab another peach, kids. It's time to go. Spaz. Yeah, we're almost to the lake. We're almost to the lake. Martin, smiling and addressing Paulette with a resigned shrug. Well, I guess we'll be there soon. Paulette, humorously responding to Martin. If Spaz says so, then it must be true. We must be close. We pause for character action. Martin and Paulette share a laugh and follow after Boz, Spaz, and the dogs. Boz is still bringing up the rear with the Lasbies. We see the group taking bites out of their peaches as they get back to their trek along the main nature trail, and then the scene comes to a close, and we now move to scene 48. This is going to be exterior daytime mid-afternoon in conjunction with the last scene, but after a brief time lapse, no more than 15 minutes later, and now the woods suddenly start to thin out and there seems to be a clearing up ahead. It is the open, grassy valley, but there are still tall grasses, rock structures, and trees that are just kind of blocking the way and obscuring our view of the lake. The lake's just not yet visible from this current position of theirs. As the group walks a little further along the trail, however, the lake will come into view, creating another moment of excitement for the Lasbies, and then the group will venture down to see the lake and look at the view of the mountains from its shoreline, and that will produce another moment of excitement, just as Byron suggested. All right, we begin our dialogue with Byron Wade addressing the Lasbies. Well, we're almost there, see? We pause for character actions. Byron points a finger up ahead where the forest abruptly starts to clear out and come to an end. Paulette, addressing Martin and pointing a finger ahead of their current position. Look, Martin. Byron. Come on, everybody. Martin, speaking aloud and sounding surprised. We're here. Paulette. Yup, I believe so. Boz, addressing the Lasbies in a somewhat reassuring voice. We're here. We pause for character actions. The group emerges from the thinning forest and steps out into the sun. The forested mountains, leaf and dirt-ridden terrain is suddenly replaced by tall, healthy grasses. There are still a few trees and giant, jagged boulders and rock formations in place to obstruct the view of the lake from the group's present position, but they have obviously reached the open, grassy valley. This is a picturesque western mountain landscape view, and the way the forest ends and is so suddenly replaced by the open grasslands almost makes for one of those little miracles of nature in itself, like a small oasis in a desert or a tropical island in the middle of an ocean. Martin and Paulette already feel taken away by the sights and the images of this wondrous and brilliant, visually stunning western valley. We move back to our dialogue with Martin, making his way from the forest mountainside toward the clearing. Wow, this is amazing. Paulette, following Martin, who is following Byron and Spaz. Yeah, I can feel the sun again. Byron, we'll get to see the lake pretty soon, once we get around all these rocks and through all of these trees. Spaz, playfully singing. The lake, we're almost to the lake. Martin, all right. Paulette, addressing Byron. This is just wonderful. Thank you for bringing us out here, Byron. Byron, responding to Paulette, but addressing both of the Lasbies. No problem. I knew you folks would appreciate this. Paulette, replying to Byron with gratitude. We sure do. Martin, also responding to Byron with sincere gratitude. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Pause for character actions. Byron, who is leading the group, now rounds a bend and spots the lake. He halts his progress to address the Lasbies. Returning to character dialogue, we now have Byron Wade sounding excited as he addresses the Lasbies. Oh, I can't wait to see your faces. Martin, sounding uncertain as he rather instinctively responds to Byron. Huh? Paulette, picking up on her husband's hesitation and unease. Wait, what? Byron, sounding undeterred and just as cheerful as ever. Come, take a look. We pause for character actions. Byron has just rounded a bend, coming around a cluster of trees and a rock face, and now he is apparently looking further down into the valley. Spaz catches up with his father and then starts running past him. Martin and Paulette, along with Boz and the dogs, pick up pace to join Byron. As they round the bend, the lake comes into view and Martin and Paulette's jaws drop at the wondrous sight. There it is, the grassy valley with the lake in the center of it, and all the other mountains rising up in the distance beyond the valley and the surrounding forest. Back to dialogue with Paulette, sounding and looking amazed and impressed as she addresses her husband. "Oh, Martin, isn't it just beautiful?" Martin, also sounding and looking amazed and impressed as he replies to his wife. "Wow, Paulette, yes, this is magnificent." We pause for character actions. Spaz apparently hasn't run far. He now rejoins the group, panting and a little out of breath, apparently from that little run after such a long walk through the mountain base's wilderness. Byron and the kids are currently staring at the Lasbys with big, bright smiles, apparently happy to see that their guests are so happy. We return to the dialogue with Martin speaking again, addressing Byron with gratitude. "Thank you, Byron, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to show us this wonderful place." Byron: "Glad to do so, really. Come on, let's get down there." Martin: "Sounds good." Spaz: "Yeah, the lake. I'm going swimming and I'm going to be an alligator. I'll eat you, Boz." Boz: Spaz, 'cause I'm a shark." We pause for character actions. Boz finally separates from the Lasbys and runs after his brother in the direction of the lake to go for a swim. The dogs take a cue from the kids and also start running toward the lake. The adults follow behind in suit. The camera pans out to capture the beautiful landscape with all of the other mountains rising up in the distance beyond this grassy valley as the group makes their way to the lake silt-lined shoreline. End scene. And we now move to scene 49, which is going to be another exterior setting / location, daytime, also mid-afternoon. Continued from last scene. But after a very brief time lapse, the present group is now in the process of relaxing and enjoying themselves and just spending some time down by the lake in the center of the open, grassy valley at the end of the main nature trail. The kids and the dogs are playing in the water. Byron, Wade, and the Lasbys are admiring the view from upon the grassy shore of the big lake. We begin our dialogue with Paulette, addressing Byron with the first sentence and Martin with the second. "This is really an impressive place. I'm glad we came out here." Martin, first responding to Paulette, then addressing both Byron and Paulette with his second sentence. "I am too. I think I'll remember this place for the rest of my life." Paulette: "I think I'll come here in my dreams from time to time." We pause for character actions. Paulette, Martin, and Byron all share a fun-loving laugh. The kids are swimming and playing in the lake with the dogs, enjoying themselves and having a good time. The children's laughter can be heard in the background, as well as the dogs barking from time to time. We move back to the dialogue with Byron, addressing the Lasbys. "Sometimes I think this is the most beautiful place in the world. Just look around and take in the sights. I think you can see why." The Lasbys, now returning to character actions, nod their heads with approval and do as they've been instructed to do. This is where a panorama view of the surrounding mountains could apply, panning the camera back and moving around as need be to show the lake, the valley, and all of the mountains, including the little one the property rests on. Maybe even back the camera up enough to capture a little footage of the valley with the lake and the farm, showing all of the distance between the two structures and how desolate the little mountain range really is. Whatever works best to capture the beauty of the landscape, but providing a little orientation with the farm would be good too. We will be making our way back toward the farm in the next scene. As for this scene, well, end scene. And we move to scene 50. This is going to be an exterior setting / location, daytime, late afternoon, in conjunction with the last scene. After a brief time lapse, the present group is now back in the woods and making their way back along the main nature trail toward the Wade family's property and farm. It is now getting later in the day, but the sun is still shining in the sky, and there is still plenty of light left for the group to get back to the farm, and then some. Martin, addressing Byron. I must say, with all of the off-trails I've been seeing on this path, it's a wonder you don't get lost at times. Byron, smiling and chuckling a bit before responding to Martin. I just know this land inside out. I've spent a lot of time roaming these woods, venturing these trails, and seeing where they all lead. Paulette, joining in the conversation and addressing Byron. I bet none of them lead to a place like the one we just visited. Byron, ain't that the truth? A lot of the off-trails are just dead ends, but there are a couple other trails that lead up our mountain. You can get pretty high up, too, like all the way up, if you know the right trails to take. Martin, that sounds like another exciting adventure for another day. Byron, sounding quite persuasive. Well, if you folks want to stay the night, we could go tomorrow. What do you say? The kids would love it if you said yes. Paulette, what do you think, Martin? We could. Martin, sounding agreeable. It's our vacation, Paulette. I'm up for anything as long as it's adventurous. Byron, quick to respond. Hiking up to the top of the mountain sure would be an adventure. It might be the shortest one in the bunch, but it's still a good-sized mountain. It's a good long hike to get there. Paulette, well, Martin, what do you say? It's up to you. Martin, sounding pressured. Me? Why is it all of a sudden up to me? We pause for character actions. Martin looks for a response, but none comes, leading to an awkward moment of silence. Byron and Paulette both have blank expressions on their faces, apparently waiting with anticipation for Martin to make up his mind about the decision at hand. Martin, again, addressing the group. Okay, well, that settles it. We don't seem to be an imposition. Actually, I think we're beginning to feel quite welcomed. We have an adventure to look forward to tomorrow, and to top it all off, the kids want us to stay. Okay, yep, that does it. We'll stay. I can't wait to take a hike up this mountain tomorrow. And, well, we pause for character actions, and the group enthusiastically celebrates the decision. Paulette, all right. Boz, yeah. Spaz, they're staying, yeah. Byron, sounding just as jubilant as Boz or Spaz. All right. We'll get you guys all situated in the guest house when we get back. We're really glad you folks decided to stop by. We really are. It gets lonely way out here in the woods. I know the kids are happy to have the company, and my wife and I are too. Paulette, well, Byron, we are family after all. We're going to try to vacation out west more often. And you know we'll stop by any time we're out this way, as long as you'll have us. Martin. Yes, indeed. Byron. Oh, shucks, folks. That'd be great. Of course. Anytime. We really are glad to have you. We now pause for character actions. There's smiles, laughter, and joy all around as the group ventures forth on the main nature trail, and the scene ends. And we will pick up next time with scene 51. That will be next time. Thank you very much.